Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite books so far in 2022. So, we have reached the halfway point of 2022, and as I always do at this point every year, I like to share so far what's kind of in the running for my favorite books of the year at the moment. So yeah, let's get going. At number 5 is The Valley of Amazement by Amy Tan. This book is set in Shanghai, 1912, and it follows a little girl named Violet. She is the privileged daughter of the American madam of the city's most exclusive courtesan house, but when the Qing dynasty is overturned, Violet is separated from her mother in a cruel act of chicanery and forced to become a virgin courtesan. Half Chinese and half American, Violet grapples with her place in the worlds of East and West until she is able to merge her two halves, empowering her to become a shrewd courtesan who excels in the business of seduction and illusion, though she still struggles to understand who she is. I read this book back in January of this year, if I'm not mistaken. I really loved it. Amy Tan's writing is just beautifully descriptive. You really get this. It's like all of your senses are really engaged while you're reading this book. It's like you can smell everything, you can see everything, you can touch everything, just hear things, just all of your senses are engaged with her just magnificent, beautiful, moving, powerful writing. Yes, set in Shanghai in 1912, and I believed in this. I believed in this world of courtesans and what Shanghai would have been like during this time. And yeah, at the core of this story, it's about a little girl named Violet who, we're introduced to her as a little girl. We see her grow up into a teenager and then into a young woman. This whole entire novel is her journey of figuring out who she is, because she's half Chinese, half American. Where does she lie? Where do her loyalties lie, essentially? Or is it okay to be divided? It's a novel about self-discovery and figuring out who she is and what she wants to become. And it's definitely about family. It's about this relationship between mothers and daughters. It's about generations and whatnot. A wonderfully powerful story by Amy Tan that definitely left me just really hooked with it from start to finish. At number 4, The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. In 1925, Miss Nano Day infiltrated the wealthy, rarefied world of author Agatha Christie and her husband, Archie. In every way, she became a part of their life. First, both Christies, then just Archie. Soon, Nan became Archie's mistress, luring him away from his devoted wife, desperate to marry him. Nan's plot didn't begin the day she met Archie and Agatha. It began decades before in Ireland, when Nan was a young girl. She and the man she loved were a star-crossed couple who were destined to be together until the Great War, a pandemic, and shameful secrets from their tore them apart. Then acts of unspeakable cruelty kept them separated. What drove someone to murder? What will someone do in the name of love? What kind of crime can someone never forgive? This was a great book, you guys, just full of so many twists and turns, and for the most part it has to deal with the real life disappearance of mystery writer Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie really disappeared for a little short while, and no one knew what happened, and people thought she had died, and maybe her husband Archie, maybe he had her murdered, who knows. It was a big deal during this time period, and yeah, until the day she died, Agatha Christie never spoke about it. So yeah, this book is set during that really mysterious time period with Agatha Christie's disappearance. But yeah, this book, it's not about Agatha Christie. Though it's set during her disappearance, it's not really about her. It is following the mistress of Archie Christie. And this is a fictionalized version of his mistress. He did have a real-life mistress during this time period, but yeah, this is a fictional version of her. And yeah, following this mistress of Archie Christie, and her relationship with Archie, her relationship with Agatha, and yeah, really mostly exploring her background. and kind of what led her up to this point in her life. And also in the background of this story, there is like a murder mystery that happens at a hotel. You got scandalous love affairs going on, crazy things going on behind the scenes. Seriously, this book has all sorts of wonderful, great twists and turns, and it's definitely what I would call a slow burn of a book, because at the start of this book, it's like, okay, what is all this? There's so many various threads, so many different characters, and at the start of this book, it may be a little frustrating, not gonna lie. It's definitely kind of frustrating, but I think it pays off quite wonderfully and beautifully by the time you reach like the climax of this book, where things really start to thread and weave together in interesting ways, and you have this moment of, oh, okay, aha. So yeah, I definitely thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I would definitely recommend it. At number 3, The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. Just after the Second World War, in the small English village of Chawton, an unusual but like-minded group of people band together to attempt something remarkable. In the early 1800s, Chawton was the final home of Jane Austen, one of England's finest novelists. By the 1940s, little remains of her legacy but a few distant relatives and their diminishing estate, including the cottage where Austen wrote or revised her books. With the winds of change blowing through the country in the post-war days and the cottage's future now in the hands of fate, a group of disparate individuals fight to preserve both Austen's home and her legacy for the world. These people, a farmer, a young war widow, the village doctor, an employee of Sotheby's, a Hollywood star, a local solicitor, the anticipated heiress to the estate, and a precocious housegirl, could not be more different, and yet they are united in their love for the works and words of Austen. As each of them endures their own quiet struggle with the loss and trauma of war and other tragedies, they find solace, connection, and hope in rallying together to create the Jane Austen Society. You guys, this book was simply charming. That's the best word for it. Just simply charming. So very British. My review for this book that I did on Goodreads, I kept saying this needs to be turned into like a BBC period drama because it's perfect material. You got post-World War II England, you got damaged, broken characters, you got Jane Austen that's connecting all these people. It's perfect. This is simply just a wonderfully charming, heartwarming book. Dealing with people who are coming out of 2 huge wars during this time period. Even though it's set after World War II, there is still the lingering effects even of World War I. Because you had this massive blow of World War I followed by World War II during this time period, and so much devastation, so much loss, and kind of this sense of, what are we surviving for? And that is just so beautifully done in this book. And these characters, what brings them together through all of their inner demons and their struggles and any death and loss that they have faced in their past, especially after World War II, what brings all these characters together is their shared love and passion of Jane Austen, and that Jane Austen, her books and her characters are so reliable. You know what to expect with her books. You can read them over and over again. You know that there's always going to be a happy ending at the end of the day, that no matter the struggles that the characters are facing, there will always be a happy ending. So that's what brings these characters together. Their love of Jane Austen, the love of the characters in her world. Through that, they're able to connect with like-minded individuals and really share in their struggles and their hopes and their dreams. It makes this novel just really compelling and likable, and once again, just super utterly charming. At number 2, The Last Grand Duchess by Bryn Turnbull. Grand Duchess Olga Romanov comes of age amid a glittering tide for the great dynasties of Europe, but even as unrest simmers in the capital, Olga is content to live the sheltered life her parents have built for her and her sisters. Hiding from the world on account of their mother's ill health, their brother Alexei's secret affliction, and rising controversy over Father Grigory Rasputin, the priest on whom the Tsarina relies. Olga's only escape comes from the grand tea parties her aunt hosts amid the shadow court of St. Petersburg, a world of opulent ball ballrooms, scandalous flirtation, and whispered conversation. As war approaches, the palaces of Russia are transformed. Olga and her sisters trade their gowns for nursing habits, tending to the wounded bodies and minds of Russia's military officers. As troubling rumors trickle in from the front, Olga dares to hope that a budding romance might survive whatever the future holds. But when tensions run high and supplies run low, fiery protests and calls for revolution threaten to end 300 years of Romanov rule. Woo! I love this book. You guys, I am a sucker for all things when it comes to the last of the Romanovs, because it was such a horrible tragedy. Oh my god. I loved that this point of view was from Olga Romanov, the oldest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II. I really loved what this novel was doing. I mean, because there's so much Romanov historical fiction out there. But I think what this novel does really wonderfully, that's, I think, honestly quite different and quite refreshing compared to other Romanov historical fiction, this novel really seeks to show just kind of the humanity of this family, that they were flawed human beings, flawed individuals. They weren't perfect. Tsar Nicholas II was not a good ruler for Russia, but what he was good at, he was a great family man. He loved his family. Everything he did was for his family. But yeah, leading Russia, not so good. So I love that this book really kind of showed the humanity of this particular family, that at its core they loved each other, even in moments maybe they didn't agree so much, you know. And once again, I love the point of view that it was from Olga being the oldest sister, kind of her having this weight and responsibility, and kind of understanding and knowing more than maybe her siblings do at this particular moment. And yeah, this novel, it starts off, it has like a dual narrative. There's like the narrative from Olga's point of view, like during World War I, she's becoming a nurse and whatnot. And then there's also her point of view while they're in exile and imprisonment, you know, pretty much leading up to the final days of the family. And yeah, that back and forth really worked for me and made it really interesting, and being able to kind of see those two different sides of Olga as a character and how she kind of reaches the point that she gets to by the end of this book. And yeah, I definitely recommend this. If you love all things Romanov historical fiction, I definitely recommend this. And at number 1, the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. Deep in the heart of Oxford's Bodleian Library, scholar Diana Bishop requests a manuscript called Ashmole 782 in the course of her research. Coming from an old and distinguished lineage of witches, Diana senses that the ancient book might be bound up with magic, but she herself wants nothing to do with sorcery, and after making a few notes on its curious images, she banishes it quickly back to the stacks. But what she doesn't know is that the old alchemical text has been lost for centuries, and its sudden appearance has set a fantastical underworld stirring. Soon, a distracting horde of demons, witches, and vampires descends upon the Bodleians' reading rooms. One of these creatures is Matthew Claremont, an enigmatic and eminent geneticist, practitioner of yoga, and a wine connoisseur, and also a vampire with a keen interest in Ashmole 782. Ooh, you guys, I loved this entire trilogy. Plus I read the spin-off book with it. But yeah, for the purposes of this video, I'm talking about the trilogy. I thoroughly love this trilogy. You guys, it's so good. I actually watched the TV series adaptation prior to reading this series first. So yeah, there's definitely some major differences here and there. But I really liked these books. I liked Deborah Harkness's writing and her characters and her world building. Yeah, just the witches have really great powers. The vampires are really cool. The demons, I feel like the demons were a little lacking in this because I never entirely sometimes understood the demons. I think I understood them better in this than I did in the TV series, to be real. But I really thoroughly loved this. And yeah, just this whole forbidden romance between a witch and a vampire, just really intriguing and sexy and steamy, you guys. And yeah, this whole search for this mysterious lost book to history that kind of perhaps has like the origins to vampires and witches and demons and whatnot, and if it falls into the wrong hands, that could spell doom and gloom for the world of these creatures and whatnot. Yeah, really intense, really sexy. You have You have like some globe trotting in places. You got some time traveling. Yes, time traveling happens in this series. There's just a lot of excitement going on in this series from start to finish, and it makes it really fun and exciting. I can't repeat enough, it's super sexy. So yeah, if you want like a book that's more adult, that deals with like witches and vampires and demons and stuff, this will probably float your boat. So you guys, that is it for my top 5 favorite books that I've read thus far in 2022. In the comments below, I am definitely curious what books you guys have enjoyed so far this year. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.